All right, now it's time. It's that time. Ladies and gentlemen, I know you've been waiting, and now it's time. It's time for the good news, the bad news, and the other shit. Two stories today. The first of them we're going to talk about is that a report just came out from the Academy of Pediatrics where they're really looking into the fact that it turns out that thousands of small children ages under 4 years of age are being actually treated for attention deficit hyperactive disorder, which is raising concerns because it's routine pediatricians for the most part, or even sometimes non-pediatricians who are actually prescribing this. And when you really prescribe these kind of psychoactive medication for small children, who knows what the long-term effects is that going to be. So this report is out now. For those of you who follow my Tumblr, I posted this because many of you don't know I am a pediatrician. 28 years I served as a pediatric hospitalist, as crazy it may seem, and I actually had a faculty position here at LA County USC Medical Center. I ran the pediatric ICU there previously as faculty. I trained at LA County USC Medical Center, and I am a board-certified pediatrician. Now, this kind of really disturbs me because I was actually one of the people who said that it was too many people previously. So friends of mine who know me know that I've been speaking out on this issue for some time. And my opinion has always been that these types of diagnoses need to be confirmed by specialists. And not just a pediatrician, but a developmental specialist who's uniquely trained in the use of these medications. When you talk about putting any medication with these kinds of effects on a small child, who knows what the long-term effects on their brain, on their behavior, it's whatever you could guess. And so the idea of having thousands of young people being treated is actually just kind of more than just alarming to me, but a crisis. As it turns out, the Academy of Pediatrics is looking into this, and they'll be following up with more reports. But again, should this come up with anyone I really think it's an issue. You really need these kind of diagnoses. First of all, Vic, any diagnosis that's made by observation is inherently inexact. In other words, when you have a diagnosis,
right,
and you don't have a chemical marker that says it's this,
right,
or a DNA marker that says it's this,
right,
if the diagnosis is based on a human being,
right,
looking or examining,
right,
to some degree, it will always be inexact. And so behavioral disease, remember, is very much determined by observed behavioral characteristics.
Right.
Again, you need to have someone who's going to use that kind of information to make a decision about putting a 3-year-old
right,
on methamphetamines or other kind of psychoactive medications. It really needs to be a specialist who's looking at that.
because I don't know any better, I'm just going to assume something by asking this question. There obviously is a protocol from what they call discovery to what they call the process and to implementation. When does that take place? And then based on the responsibility of discovery to enact what they will call a discussion and to say, hey, look, we're discussing this. This is what we're learning. Why isn't that probably not more available? Because it's not an exact science. Is it because it takes so long to wait for all the what we call collateral follow-up that may come from it? I'm not quite understanding the discovery to the point of implementation.
For a lot of those things, Vic, believe it or not, for a lot of things like this, there isn't a really national or type of protocol anywhere.
Right.
So there is no protocols, okay? Depending where you're located, too, you may or may not have access to individuals. who are professionals on that level. You may be in a rural community where they don't have the specialists.
Right.
But I can tell you that for a lot of things like this, those kind of standards have been evolving, and especially in pediatrics, is going to lag further behind. And especially in areas as difficult as this.
Right.
Because behavior in very young children is so erratic anyway, it's part of their normal makeup.
Right.
This is where it gets more difficult. But no, Vic, it's for a bunch of those things. It's probably never been looked at to the degree that which we're getting to now. You have a better sharing of information. The internet has changed a lot of things, which I tell people dramatically, because the sharing of information amongst investigators and professionals is made tremendously. It's just increased because of the access to the internet, to search.
Right.
So you're going to see evolving things, okay? But no, right now there's not a set protocol. To some degree, I think that those things will be becoming more clear as the Academy of Pediatrics steps in with specific recommendations, because that's what's going to happen.
Right.
They're going to step in with specific recommendations for verifying the diagnosis, and then standards, because that's what they look to have, is to have standardized community protocols for a lot of these kinds of things, but they just don't exist.
Right.
So people, according to this article here, which is from the I tell you I don't have my visual aids. The New York Times. Thank you. More than 10,000 toddlers, 2 to 3 years old, are being medicated. Now, and they're being medicated outside of what already is the established pediatric guidelines. Well, this was presented as a report, so we'll find out. They said that toddlers that were covered by Medicaid were particularly prone to being put on medications such as Ritalin and Adderall. Wow.
Okay.
What was particularly alarming was, for many of the children, Vic, no other therapy had been attempted other than medication.
Okay.
No type of behavioral therapy.
Right.
Just straight to medication.
Is it more issue about what they're recommending, although, like you said, they're doing what they call the eye test and then going from there, which I can understand that.
There's pressure from parents and teachers too, Vic.
Right,
the system. Yeah, it's not. Let me just not throw the poor practitioner by, even though I still think it's poor judgment. There's a lot of pressure from teachers. I actually had a teacher send a note to me with the patient to the emergency room saying, "Please put this child on medication."
Already, that's a big ass flag.
Of course.
Yeah, so I know that. We know that.
Absolutely ridiculous.
We got that one right.
Let me tell you that the Academy of Pediatrics standards for guidelines, and standards for ADHD do not even address the diagnosis in children 3 and younger. For I told you, it's very difficult to even make these diagnoses, and then let alone the use of using stimulants.
Right.
Quote one of the doctors, "It's absolutely shocking, and it shouldn't be happening. People are just feeling around in the dark. We obviously don't have our act together for little children." More to come on this report. Small children, toddlers being medicated for attention deficit hyperactive disorder.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Okay. In part 2 of today, Mario's perspective. Donald Trump and what this all means for America. Many of us have been watching the Republican primaries, the debates, with more interest, with more fervor than ever. I can't remember a time when I've ever been this interested in watching a debate or spent this much time in the process of rewatching analysis and commentary of the debate. And it's all because of Donald Trump. Donald Trump. A man who the media would tell you, the media calls him, this is part of the story to me, Vic. The media calls him brash, opinionated, outspoken, caustic, but they won't call him bigot. They hate to throw around the word bigot or racist. But to begin this, let's acknowledge that Donald Trump is a bigot. Your use of terminology is probably specific to your age or generation. Most black people are going to call him racist. What if Donald Trump isn't a bigot or a racist, then who is? He's already insulted all Mexicans, all Muslims, he's insulted handicapped people. Now, as a black person, I just want you to understand. When I'm sitting around a white person who's talking about Mexicans and Muslims, I know what he thinks about me. Okay, I'm just saying. But okay, let's have that. But that's okay. Because I had this conversation with a friend of mine, very good friend of mine, who's outraged. He's outraged. And he's outraged because Donald Trump, he said, Mario, this is just too much. I'm just floored. I'm shocked. Now, this brother of mine is Jewish. And I told him, I said, well, that's because over the years that we've had our conversations, because I have to remind him, I've always talked about the level of bigotry and racism in America, and you know that is a topic of which black people and white people fundamentally agree. It's historical. When black folks back in the 60s and 70s were saying that 85% of America was racist and bigoted, white Americans were saying 10% of Americans, 5% of Americans were bigoted. It's always been a flip-flop. So my good buddy and I, my brother and I, have disagreed over the years about the level of racism and bigotry in the United States. Right now, he is the one shocked. In fact, as I go around talking to people, it's mostly non-black people who are shocked. Almost no black people are shocked. Why? I told my buddy, I said, Alan, this is the America I grew up with. I grew up with Donald Trump. That's the America I know, and I know it well. The other folks who are so shocked or never did believe that America had this level of bigotry. That's why the media can't say it. They keep, Vic, you hear them go stuff like this. What do you think it is? What do you think it is that Mr. Trump is doing that is appealing to these people? What is the common core? What is the element that causes them to go with Donald? Because they're angry. They're angry. They never call them bigots either, or racist, but they're angry. The common core is bigotry. This is the reaction, the backlash to President Obama. Let's be honest. Folks who have this level of pent-up bigotry are pissed off. They want to take back America. I don't know who first of all, if they're going to take it back, who they taking it from, and then who they giving it to. But let's say, whatever. So they just feel like they suffered through 8 years of an African-American president, and the prospect of having Hillary now is pissing them off. It's pissing them off. So the common element that Donald strikes with them is bigotry. And the media can't say that because they can't say, oh, this many Americans are bigoted. This many Americans are racist. Look how many in the Republican Party are bigoted or racist. Because they can't say that. And let's put it like this. Because I know some folks who support Donald Trump who aren't racist. I know them. I think they're misguided, but I don't think they're racist. Now here's the thing. This is what I would tell them. And these are people I know. If you're willing to support Donald Trump and you're not a bigot, at least it means that to you, it's not a deal breaker. In other words, Donald Trump's bigotry is not a deal breaker. It's like this. You meet this fine woman, wonderful rat, beautiful face, teeth perfect. She says, I'm going to take you home and do you. I'm so glad to have a white man instead of all these niggas and Mexicans around me. Now, when she says that to you, you still bone her? That's what I'm getting at. It wasn't a deal breaker, right? It wasn't a deal breaker. So I had to make that horrible analogy. But for a lot of Americans, Donald Trump's bigotry, his racism, is a side issue. And that's the way it always was when I was growing up. It was never a problem. I remember when Mayor Yorty ran against Tom Bradley. here. Tom Bradley ran against, what, 3 times before he was able?
Yeah.
I remember him saying this openly, do you really want one of them to be mayor? That's the way they... I watched George Wallace on TV. My mother called me to TV. Watch him. He said, watch out for the niggers. It was niggers then. Watch out for the... So this is part of the American heritage, but because you don't have the real truth in discussion, people are in shock. So people say, wow, Mario, that's all terrible. That's all hard. You're saying that. I said, yeah. This Donald Trump support shows you, roughly, an estimate of the amount of bigotry that's in the Republican Party, and it's reflecting on America. I even tell you this. You know why Rubio won't get support, Vic? Why he's so bad? He looks too Mexican. His wife looks Mexican. The whole party wants... let me tell you, the Republican Party right now is saying, we want the whitest candidate we can find. Can you please find us a white man? Not a white... We don't want Hillary. And that's what the populace is saying, and America and the world is in shock.
Wonder if they choose Ben Carson as VP. Would that trump that response you just had?
I don't know.
So wait a minute. First of all, you know what? I am not going to make this seem like you don't pay attention to elections and politicians and everything. I'm just going to say there's history. You already mentioned. You said McGovern, Goldwater. This is it's not unprecedented. It's happened before as it relates to what the philosophy of a particular party is.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just saying I was waiting for the first person to call out the comparison to Hitler, and I died laughing.
Oh, fine. Somebody did call him like Hitler. Because Hitler came with the same kind of populist rhetoric, appealing to the lowest elements in a time of crisis.
Right. So let me say this. I am not a politician. I'm not an orator. I do not go and give speeches. I'm an everyday individual who's going... Out of all the years, since I'm only of a certain age, I haven't seen this much entertainment in politics. That
it's amazing.
This is. I want you to understand. I am like literally waiting for them. I'm at an age now where they're actually doing the dozens. I'm at an age where they're actually doing the dozens. They're talking about little hands, and I'm watching the traditional party with the Republicans actually sit here and said, we got a plan. We're going to be more embracing.
And that's not even their plan.
Wait a minute, it's flipped on its head. So I'm gonna miss it when it's gone.
And we're not saying that it's a good thing that we wish would happen. What I'm saying is that when you hold a mirror up to yourself, when America gets a mirror held up so it can see itself more clearly, that's always a good thing. So now, my final thoughts. I want everybody to take a moment and take a breath and exhale. Because things are actually better today. They're not worse. Let me say that again. Things are actually better today. They're not worse. The difference is that we have more truth. And the truth is that we all have people who are bigoted, racist, homophobic, anti-Semitic around us. That's the truth. In today's more integrated family, I still bet that at Thanksgiving, there's at least 1 or 2 people around your table at Thanksgiving. There'll be at least 1 or 2 people who you love, who will either hate blacks, hate Mexicans, hate gays, hate lesbians, hate Jews. Jews are controlling everything, taking over the world. Mexicans are taking over the country. Blah, 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 blah. It may be your mother or father. Okay? So the first thing we need to do is have truth, because the truth is we all deal with and make exceptions for people who we love who are bigots. You know, you just go, that's my crazy aunt, or my mom, she's just my dad. Listen, I got that. And we got to make allowances for that, because all of this is a push and a battle for the movements of people's hearts. And we got to be truthful. That means we all have, and we all make exceptions for some folks, especially like our parents. or relatives. But that doesn't mean we have to politically do it, because the idea is to move forward. So demonizing Donald Trump is not really necessary, because Donald Trump is really so much a part of America. That's why he has that following. Okay, so you need to go and accept that. Now, the good point is that it's way better than it used to be. When I was growing up, that's what all of America was like. The fact that for the first time, you can't be publicly racist, bigoted, that never existed before, you guys. Before, you could publicly talk about whoever, gays, call them fags. You can do whatever you want. Women, they whistled at them. The culture of America, indeed the culture of the world, has changed. So the first thing is take a deep breath. As bad as it seems to you today, I'm telling you, I'm a radical leftist from the 60s, okay? This is a better day. Because where they say 40% of Republicans would be like this, and in my day it was 85, 90% of them, okay? That's what I'm trying to tell you. And like I told my buddy Alan, my brother, I said, listen, don't worry, Alan, because the world is moving forward, and it has moved forward in my lifetime to an amazing degree. It just shows you that the obvious, what people thought were the obvious solutions, don't work. Having an African American president doesn't end racism or even mean that you have no racism. Stop and take a breath, America. What this tells you is what is the current status of America as it relates to race, even after an African American president, even after all that, even after having, and then they're looking at Hillary, and what is the backlash going to be? And I tell you, don't even let that bother you. That's expected. That is so expected. And what I'm so happy about is that where it's 40%, it used to be 80%. So there is progress indeed. We have made progress. So take a breath. Don't feel bad about what you're saying, because now it's news. Killing black folks used to not be news. Do you understand that? It wouldn't make the news. Cops killed another black. So what? So what? So that's the thing of today. We think it is indeed a wonderful day. So take a deep breath and don't feel bad that this is happening. But you're going to have to start to take a side. What I mean, you're going to have to start to slowly take a side as to what you stand for in this world. Do you want to make change? Do you want to be a better person by learning to respect women more, elderly more? Do you want to learn about other cultures that make up this country, and so that you can respect those individuals more? Do you want to grow, and so that way you can go out to the world? Do you want to? But you're going to have to make a choice, because you can't be neutral. The one thing that angers me is the people who try to say, I ain't in this. I ain't in this. This is not my problem. I ain't in this. And for them, for those who say constantly when all this crisis is going on, for those that constantly are saying, I'm not in this, I'm not doing this, I would like to quote Dante, who says, and I quote rather loosely probably, the hottest places in hell are reserved for those who in times of great moral crisis maintain their neutrality. Hottest places in hell. I'm Marl Hemsley. That's the news. All right. The good shit. The bad shit. The other shit. Love somebody today.